the strangest thing happened. I have leftover ribs, but I don't just want to heat up the ribs to have ribs. So I'm going to take that rib meat and use it in smoked rib jambalaya. All right, this is a very easy dish to make. We're using one pot here, and we're just gonna start by sauteing up some andouille sausage. Just wanna get this going on sort of medium-high heat. I'm gonna put maybe a tablespoon of oil in here. I'm using a vegetable oil. You can use peanut oil, anything like that. All right, let's get our andouille in here. This is 11 ounces of smoked andouille sausage that I've just sliced into rounds. It's pre-cooked. You could eat it just like this, but it's going to release a lot of great flavor in this. So we're going to let this saute for a few minutes here. I always think of andouille as the chorizo of Cajun cooking. It releases such great flavor when you cook it, just like chorizo in Mexican dishes. Getting some nice color on this andouille now. All right, I'm gonna add my vegetables now. I have 1 green bell pepper, 1 red bell pepper, 1 onion, and 2 celery stalks that have been sort of chopped up fine. Not diced, but smaller. Gonna mix these in here. We're gonna let these cook down for a few minutes before we move on. All right, our vegetables are getting nice and tender here. It's time to start adding our liquid ingredients. I'm gonna add 16 ounces of a crushed tomato from a can and 2½ cups of chicken broth. I'm gonna stir this in for a minute. I'm gonna add 2 teaspoons of Worcestershire. Someone said just to say Worcester sauce. Well, this is Worcestershire sauce. Why is it so hard to pronounce Worcestershire? Well, anyway, it's gonna be about 2 teaspoons of it, so a couple good shakes. My wife's laughing over here. This bottle does not have one of those shaker things. It's just open. So that might have been about 3 or 4 teaspoons. Luckily, this was almost empty, so it's not in a blooper reel. This is actually staying in the video. Also gonna add about ½ teaspoon of Tabasco sauce. Just a minute, let me check something. Yeah, this has a little lid on it. So I'm just gonna shake this until I get as much in there as I like, because I really like Tabasco. That's probably ½ teaspoon or a teaspoon. Now I'm gonna add 2 heaping tablespoons of minced garlic. Now our spice mixture. This is a tablespoon of Cajun seasoning, a ½ teaspoon of red pepper flakes, a ½ teaspoon of ground black pepper, a teaspoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon of gumbo filet, or filet powder. I'm gonna get this all stirred in here. Now I'm gonna add 1 1/4 cups of white rice. I'm gonna stir this in, and we're gonna bring this up to a boil. I know you're saying, I thought this was rib jambalaya. It's coming, it's coming. I wanna make sure we bring this up to a boil, and then we'll take it down to a simmer. All right, we're up to a nice boil here, a nice rolling boil. We're gonna reduce the heat so we can bring it down to a simmer. And we're gonna add our rib meat. This is about 3 cups of rib meat from some St. Louis cut spare ribs that I smoked the other day. We're just gonna feed this into here. It's been all chopped up, taken off the bone. Now, normally in jambalaya, you'd be using chicken, maybe adding some shrimp to it. This is smoked rib jambalaya. All right, we're gonna adjust our burner so that we get to a simmer, and then we're gonna let this simmer for about 20 to 25 minutes. We'll check it then, we'll check the rice, see how we're doing. And then we're gonna have some smoked rib jambalaya to taste. All right, our jambalaya has been simmering for about 25 minutes. It's thickening up nicely here. Great scent coming off of this. Want to give a little taste for the flavor of the sort of juices in there, but also to test the rice and see if we're close to it being tender. So let's get a little bit of rice and a little bit of the sauce. Oh, that flavor's great. But the rice probably needs another 10 minutes. And as you can see, this is thickening up quite a bit. I want to add a little bit more liquid to this. So I've got ½ cup of chicken stock that I'm going to add, and this has been warmed up in the microwave, so we're not adding cold chicken stock. Just gonna stir this in. Now, some people might cook this with the cover on. If you do this with the cover on, that's fine, that's up to you. Doing it with the cover off really allows this to thicken up, everything to tighten up together so you have a real sort of hearty consistency when you serve this. It's a little less soup-like. Okay, we're gonna let this simmer for about 10 more minutes. We'll check it again, but I think we'll be pretty close. All right, we've been going another 10 minutes, so 35 minutes total here. You can see how this is really thickened up, really nice looking. Let's do a quick check of the rice, see if it is cooked and tender. There we go. Oh yeah. This is not the official taste yet, but this is ready, so it is time to taste. All right, here is our smoked rib jambalaya. It smells really good. I know I always say that when we're cooking something here, but it just really does. There's something about that Cajun seasoning, the Cajun flavors that come up off a dish that just, it makes you feel good. It warms you, and that definitely is the case here. So let's get into this and let's have a taste. I'm gonna make sure in the first bite that I've got some of that rib meat in here. Let's see. Oh boy. Those ribs were tender when I smoked them and when we ate them. After being in here for, what was it, 35 minutes, they are now in a little bit more of a fall apart state. I don't like my ribs fall apart on the bone, but in this, when you bite into this and they just separate and come apart, almost melt with the rest of this jambalaya, it's perfect. I'm gonna go for some with a little bit of that andouille sausage, which I just adore. I love andouille sausage. To me, andouille has just enough of a kick. It's not overly hot, not overly spicy. I know there are people who don't like it because they think it's too spicy. I don't think it's too spicy at all. I think it's just perfect. And in jambalaya, it gives you such a nice little punch of that Cajun flavor. Even in addition to the seasoning you've put in, it's just great. So in the unlikely event that you do have leftover rib meat and you do like Cajun food, try making some rib jambalaya. It goes really well with this, replaces the chicken you might use perfectly. It's a great dish the next day if there's any left over after you make it.